one final set of T20Is for India before the T20 World Cup. Yes, there are a few practice games, but ideally, if they want to cover all their bases, this is their best chance to, as a full-strength South African side come up against them. They've won the Australia series 2-1. Let's ask Wasim Jaffer what India need to do to just make sure they're in perfect position and shape going into the World Cup. Wasim on ESPNcricinfo T20 Timeout. Let's start with your 11. In the absence of Hardik Pandya and Bhuvneshwar Kumar to an extent, what's your 11 for the first game?
I'll go with the same top four, which is KL, Rohit, Virat at 3, Surya Kumar Yadav at 4, and then Rishabh Pant comes in for Hardik's place. DK at 6, Akshar at 7, Harshal Patel at 8, Bumrah at 9, and then Yajundar Chahal at 10. And then I'm going for Arshdeep Singh, plainly because India's problem lies with death bowling. So I think with Arshdeep coming in, might help Harshal Patel to bowl in the middle overs or maybe 1 over in the power play. So Deep Char, I won't go for this moment, but Arshdeep Singh, we all know he can bowl really well in the death, so might solve that problem. But I think in this series, India will have a problem of the sixth bowler because we don't have Hardik Pandya, we don't have Deepak Hooda. So that is going to be a worry for Rohit Sharma to handle those 5 bowlers.
I think it's fair to say India would be looking at whatever gives them more information for the World Cup rather than this bilateral series, Wasim. And let's start with the point you raised between Arshdeep and Harshal Patel. Now, India might have won that series, but questions were raised on Harshal Patel, whether he's lost a little bit of bite or whether he prefers certain surfaces. From what you saw in that series, and you brought it up as well, that it is a concern. Harshal Patel is not likely to get surfaces that may grip in Australia. Where do you think he's gone off and what do you think he needs to rectify in this series?
I think he's got the variations. We all know he's got, really, really good slow balls, that dipping slow ball, then obviously that slow bouncer. He's got really good Yorker as well. And he bowls at decent pace. He doesn't bowl obviously 140 plus, but he bowls at good 135, touches 135. I think he just need to understand that when he's bowling the slow ball, he needs to put in a bit more effort. Sometimes batsman tends to wait for those deliveries, knowing Harshal, that's his go-to ball. I think in the last T20 against Australia, that last over he bowled, that 20th over, I think that was very, very good. He only conceded 7 runs, which helped India to bring that total down, and India chased down eventually the target. So I think he came back really, even though he only bowled 2 overs in that third T20. But I think as he plays, more games going into the World Cup, I think he'll get better. But like I said, if Arshdeep Singh is there, even if Harshal has an off day or, he doesn't go really well, then you've got another bowler to go to in the death. So I think that will solve a little bit of problem.
All right. Now, interestingly, Wasim, you've gone with both Harshal and Arshdeep in your 11 and not Deepak Chahar, who is part of the reserve players for the World Cup. Is this series for you perhaps the audition to decide who will clinch that spot between Harshal and Arshdeep, or is that choice already made up in your mind?
I think India probably, not sure, other than Bumrah, I don't know the 2 bowlers that India are going to. Harshal Patel probably get that spot because he can bat, that helps. Somebody who can score those important, 5 or 10 runs, given the situation. Even Bhuvi can hold a bat. But I think that's not the issue. I think the death bowling is an issue. So probably Harshal and Bumrah might sneak that 2 spot. But the third seamer, I think that is going to be very critical, whether India goes with Bhuvi and, trust him with the new ball, or they go with Arshdeep, worrying about the death. So that is going to be, we'll find out. But I think Harshal and Bumrah might be a certainty to me.
And the other interesting dilemma that India have been presented with, I wouldn't call it a dilemma, but Akshar Patel, player of the series against Australia, not necessarily for the skill set that Ravindra Jadeja used to be in the team for. Jadeja's batting was more relied on. Akshar as the bowler has stood out, but Akshar, the batter, we've not seen. Now, would you like anything different done in this series, Wasim, to test Akshar Patel, the batter, more, even if it means him batting higher than what his usual position might be?
I think India could have done that, but now that you see number 5 spot going to Rishabh Pant, then you probably won't see that also, because that means you are batting Rishabh Pant again much lower, and that might dent his confidence that, Akshar Patel coming in before him. So I don't see that happen. If Rishabh Pant hadn't played in this series, Then you might have seen Harshal Patel probably coming in at 4 or 5, considering if Keshav Maharaj is bowling or even Shamsi is bowling. But now Rishabh Pant is batting at 5. We probably won't see that as well.
Now, one last thing, India again are trying to put themselves in as many situations to best prepare them for the World Cup. Wasim, anything in particular that you'd like to see them do in this last series? Would you advise them playing a full strength side in every game? Would you perhaps think of batting first and putting the team under pressure, given batting first seems to be India's weakness? That's the game that they lost in the series against Australia. Anything that you'd like to see this Indian team do, keeping the World Cup in mind?
I think they just need to bat in the same template. I think this South African team will test them. I think they've got a lot more depth, considering their bowling attack, considering their spin attack. I think this South African team is going to be very, very challenging. They've come in with 18-member squad, and I think they've got a lot of variety. They've almost squared the series. I think the last series was 2-2. The fifth game wasn't, was washed out. So I think, if India, the only box that probably India need to tick is probably the death bowling, in my opinion. I think if Indian bowlers manage to do that well, I think Indian batting is really, clicking in the right way. The template that we are playing with, top 4 batsmen have scored runs, even though Hardik is not there, Deepak Hooda is not there. But Hardik, I feel, is very, very critical to India's chances. I think he holds, a lot of importance going into the World Cup because it gives you that 6th bowling option. And because he's not playing in this series, we'll struggle to have that 6th bowling option. So that is going to be a challenge. But I think the death bowling is something which I hope that India, ticks that box.